Hello, ladies and gentlemen, cyclocross fans and viewers from all around. Welcome to our coverage of the second stop of the 2023 USCX Series being held in Rochester, New York in the beloved Genesee Valley Park. Grab some popcorn, throw your bike in the trainer, find some friends. The coverage starts now. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome. We're here, and this was last weekend in Roanoke, Virginia for the Blue Ridge Cyclocross, the first stop of this USCX series, and it was Rochester that it went down in a big way. Very, very strong riding from Magali. Big gaps opened up, and on day one, she became the victor of 2 days of racing. You can see her here taking that first day, the Category 1 win. That was Magali's. Then we had the women's C2. It was a much more wet affair. There was a lot of precipitation in the morning, and the ladies got treated to a much more, nasty and slick course. They really enjoyed. Caroline Monty there in second spot, followed by Raylan Nuss, doing everything that they could to slow down Magali Rochette, but she ended up building a gap of almost 2 minutes over the chase, and she was able to put it all together to come away with a second victory down in the southern part of the United States.
Hey Jeremy, I'm really looking forward to this one today. Saw some cracking racing last weekend, and yeah, looking forward to some slightly different names on the start list this weekend, so should mix things up nicely.
I agree. Yeah, beautiful weather today in Rochester, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, a little bit of wind, partly cloudy, but it does look magnificent, doesn't it, out there?
It certainly does. It certainly does. And yeah, similar to last weekend, almost hot, dry conditions on the Saturday, making for some super fast, furious kind of bunch racing on the first day in the C1 events. But slightly different last weekend for the C2, so it'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the riders are down in staging, and everybody's getting called up here. We've got some interesting names down on the start line today, which, as we see that gentleman there is just checking the tire width and everything like that, huh, Ian?
Yep, maximum width of 33 millimeters, so that little device just checks to make sure that it can pass over the tubular or the tire, making sure, everyone's abiding by the rules.
Yeah, so one of the names that's on the start list is junior mountain bike and cyclocross world champion Isabella Holmgren, but we're going to get back to that. Ian, take us through what we're seeing here.
We're going live from Bath HQ across to New York City, then up and across to our venue today in Rochester, New York.
We're going to get a little bit of a course rundown here, one that I've done many times. It's flat and fast affair with the Genesee River just behind it, but this is the start-finish area there, the big pits. And I believe that we're going to be hearing from Caroline Monty on some of those today's course features that are out there that make this track so iconic on the U.S. cyclocross scene, but also one of the fastest and kind of most interesting tracks that we race against. It's definitely unique, but it's really beautiful course, and there's been a lot of great history over here. I believe I've counted 13 editions of Rochester Cyclocross, so let's hit it down to Caroline Monty to take us through some of the finer points of this track.
Bonjour, this is Caroline Monty. We are here in Rochester, New York. This is the second round of the USCX series, and we're gonna show you the course. This is a section called Double.
Well, we're back in our spaceship helicopter, and we're actually just checking out this course. So I'm going to walk you through some of the finer points of this track, I think, today. But one of the things that's really cool about this course that I think is worth noting is that here, where we see that most top northern line there, goes all along the river, and there's a handful of different sections on this course that really make it super technical and create this accordion effect out there on the on things. And it really will be a group race, but there will be different points on this track that are really going to force the riders to have to stay together and punch it up out of the saddle to be able to stay with their competitors. So here we are, Caroline's back.
Bonjour, this is Caroline Manny. We are here in Rochester, New York. This is the second round of the USCX series, and we're gonna show you the course. This is a section called Double Trouble. It tells you how you can get in trouble. So that's gonna be a technical section. We're gonna go up that rocks and then back down on the other side. There we go. This is the young generation showing how it's done. I'm too old now. So we are on the other side of Double Trouble. The key is to go over that steep section and not end up in the water. This is pretty steep this year. It doesn't really matter which way you are going, up and down. It's going to be a really steep technical section. You really want to be leading the group, because if anyone messed up at the top, then you're going to have to get off the bike and lose a lot of time. So you're not going to gain too much, but you could lose a lot of time here. This is a pretty technical section. It doesn't look that hard, but actually you want to slow down. It's really loose in surface. Off camber, I'm going to make sure I'm leading the course, or at least like having a little bit of space, because you definitely lose your front wheels, and then you have that really tight corner, and then put the power down at the right time. So pay attention to that. Don't do that. Hey, at least she's doing it right in front of the bus. Watch the video from last year. That became viral, because if it gets muddy here, you're gonna have a lot of laugh for sure. It's a really steep run up. This side of the course is gonna be the powerful section. So if you watch the TV, you're gonna probably see me with my tongue out. It's gonna happen. And then the only break, it's not really a break, is those stairs are really painful, and back to the finish line. Wish me luck.
All right, that was a great overview of the course, and this is some of the start lists that we're going to be going through today, starting from the lower third, fourth row, coming up, back up to this front row. We've got quite a few riders here you can see from the US and Canada. Ivy Audrey in there, going to be on the start list. Mia D. Martin on the start list. Joy Franco on there. Getting up into that second, maybe second and third row. Regina Legg's going to be on there. We've got Megan Owens. We've got Caitlin Walcroft, Greta Kilburn. So we've got quite a few top riders here all on the start list today. And we're going to be getting really quickly here down on the front row. Ian, can you take us through here? This is not Taylor Cook-White. In fact, this is actually Lauren Zorner, the teammate of Caroline Manny, who we just saw. And this here is also not Emily Shields, unfortunately. This is actually Sydney McGill that we're seeing here riding for the Cervelo Orange Living team. This is your Continental National champ, Raylan Nuss, riding there on that Trek bike, riding those Griffo tires. Ian?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the riders are running today. As we see Isabella Holmgren. Wow, there's a huge name on the start list. I'm super excited to see what she can do today. Here we have Caroline Manny also on the challenge Griffo tread. Looks like the majority of riders have gone for that today as we move across the front row. Here we have last weekend's double winner Magali Rochette. Be interesting to see what she's gone for. Often goes for a little lighter tread, so maybe a chicane, as we're not going to see that one. And finally, Emily Shields there as well, riding for Ken's Bike Shop. Looking forward to see what she can do today as well.
And that is Kaya Musgrave there, riding again for that Cervelo Orange Living program. But Ian, the tension that we can see on the front row, the big matchup between the young junior world champion and Magali Rochette as the official commissaire calls for 30 seconds, and the riders are sitting there on the start line, poised and ready to go. They are off and going here in Rochester for this second round of the USCX. Here we go. It's Laura Zerna that's off to the front of the race, getting a kick out. Caroline Monty in her traditional trademark style, taking it through the first turn. Ian, what do you think? How is this going to shake out in this first big turn here in Rochester with all the fans out?
Well, same old from Caroline Manny, one of the fastest starters on the World Cup circuit over the years, and no different today, leading this one out. She said in her course preview that she wanted to lead into some of these key technical sections, and she's off to a great start right now, leading this one out. Rochette settled into second position and already through that first pit of the day, but no one will be going in unless they've had a real issue off of the start line.
Yeah, the riders are going to get shuffled out a bit here, and it's really a lot of power output on this track. Super fast, but you can see that many of the top names that are on this the stacked women's field are going to be out here as we go through a nice flyover down to what has historically been some planks not too far after this, but through this kind of bowl section here, going through, there's been a beer pit in this area where people have been able to enjoy some adult beverages, and then they come over to some barricades not too far away, but they make their way now over to the further part of the course where there's a very steep embankment that they're going to be making their way over to, and that they typically do like a horseshoe up and then back down the other side before they kind of go on the other side of the highway in, and then they're over on that side doing a bit of technical driving, all off cambers and different stuff, all through that area to drop them down to a big run up. But let's see, as now we see for the first time Magali Rochette hit the front here.
Yeah, really want to lead into that first technical section on the course. The course is punctuated with these small technical sections, and it's really fast open racing in between these technical sessions. So yeah, we're going to see time and time again just racing for position into these sections, because yeah, as you said before, it's that concertina effect, that kind of rubber band effect that we talk about all the time in cyclocross, how kind of the group comes together in these technical sections, but as soon as you exit and that front rider's onto that next straightaway while the group behind is kind of still in the technical section, the gaps just open up and it's super hard to close down. And already you see great shot of this technical section using this small valley, this bowl section, and Rochette has a gap already.
Yeah, you can see there it's Rochette, Mani, Zorner, followed here by, looks to be Sydney McGill, and we see the junior world champion here tucking in just now coming up. So we've got quite a few riders as they come through here. Wearing number 2, that's Isabella Holmgren, 19 years old, also our junior mountain bike world champion. We'll see if she's able to. There were some races last year, Ian, where she was over in Europe, and yeah, there's a really serious effort there. Junior world champion on the mountain bike, junior world champion in cyclocross here on the start line in Rochester today.
Yeah, a huge name of our sport, along with her sister Ava. Isabella, obviously the junior cyclocross world champion from last year, took the mountain bike world title in the same category this summer. Unfortunately, her sister crashed in practice and broke her collarbone, so that's probably the reason she's not on our start list today. But this is the first cross race for Isabella. She even got 8th at the junior road world championships. Just gives the kind of idea of the talent we're talking about. Be interesting to know what she has done off the back of that heavy summer program, whether she took a break and is just building into the cross season and just using these races to get up to speed, collect some of those important UCI points going forward in this season. That first year out of junior can be a real big step up, but see how quickly she gets up to speed today.
Yeah, we can see here, this is one of those sections that I was talking about earlier as Holmgren there hops back on her machine. This is a very technical part of the track, and this is where we can look for attacks and errors to come in, bobbles and gaps to start to open up. They are compact right now, going 110% of their maximum, trying to get through. You can see this is the only part of the track that's really dusty as Raylan Nuss kind of just drops her way down there. This is an area where you could roll a tubular, you could have an error with your bike, but this is one of the riders that's just trying to get on there. This area there on the road, super fast paced, But as they make their way across now, they'll be coming into the pits for the second time. First time they come in is just off the start-finish straight. Now Magali Rochette making her way through, which has historically followed a pair of barriers just after it on the backside to slow things up. As you can see, this very beautiful, pristine course here in Genesee Valley Park. She's coming up to these quite tall barriers, I've been told, Ian.
Yeah, we've seen on social media they're kind of almost up to that 40-centimetre limit. They're kind of built on a bit of a kind of footing, which almost makes them feel a little bit higher to the riders. So be interesting to see how many riders can actually ride these. I've seen on social media a few of the men being able to hop them, but yeah, right now none of the women able to.
Getting a replay here of that start line and that intensity. Ian, for some of these riders, it's their first race of the season. You remember the butterflies in the start line?
Yeah, that first race of the season, you've done all you can to be on that start line in the best shape possible, given that's coming from a pure cross point of view. Obviously, a rider like Isabella Holmgren might know kind of where they are in terms of their training, their phase plan for the whole year. So they might not be in like top condition for this first race, but I'm sure just as nervous, just wanting to get on with it. But as soon as that gun goes, you're doing what you know, and then the body just takes over, as we see Magali making her way down to that first stepped section on this opening lap. Group behind, group of 3 with one rider just dangling off the back. You mentioned her in one of those technical sections, Raylin Nuss, with a bad start last weekend. We saw she was really good, but yeah, not quite on it this week. 2 third places last weekend, so she'll be looking to try and make up some places. Isabella Holmgren just off the back of that chasing group, but looks like she's finding her legs over the course of this opening lap.
Yeah, the gap not that big. I mean, 7 minutes in, Magali looking like she's gonna, really have to pedal a lot to be able to get away. You can see the fans and the vibe down there in the start-finish area and in the pits doing really, really good. Cyclocross alive and well here on the second round of the USCX in Rochester as Magali Rochette comes through. We've got the live timing, but there's no question about it. It's right there, that iconic clock right above that big kind of Gothic Rochester Cyclocross logo as Monty and Sydney McGill come through with Laura Zorn just on her rear wheel there. So we've got just behind her Kaya Musgrave, Elizabeth Holmgren in 6th place, Raylin Nuss there coming in, Chloe Frazier 7th place, Ella Brenneman 8th right now, Greta Kilburn in 9th spot. So we've got quite a race on our hands. Everyone, that top 10 only separated by about 27 to 30 seconds right now.
Yeah, tight racing behind, and we saw the gaps last weekend in similar conditions on the Saturday for the C1 race. Rochette put 59 seconds into Caroline Manny during that race, and 59 seconds to Nuss as well. So she's opened up a decent gap already. It's whether that chase group can even able to work together. They'll be able to work together on the fast sections in between the technical sections, but you tend to find when you're in a group, you almost kind of slow up the riders behind just quite naturally in these technical sections as they kind of run into the back of you, and then on exiting they're just chasing back to the wheel, so you're there making an effort on the front, flicking your elbow, and they've just got back to the wheel kind of thing. So it can be really difficult on this sort of course to even get a group, even though it's fast conditions where you'd have thought working as a group would help, it can be really difficult to get a working group together.
Yeah, Magali Rochette she's very friendly, but doesn't look to want to be participating in any group affairs today. She's out there going all in, but it looks like it's Sydney McGill that's trying to make her way across here, the rider riding for Cervelo Orange Living, trying to come across to the ferocious pace that Magali Rochette's laying down right now as she comes through. So Rochette, the bit between her teeth, that she's just going all out to get this kind of gap established. It's that out of sight, out of mind, as you were saying, and there's not going to be a lot of, working together in the back right now. Of course, there is the chance to do so because there is a little bit of 10 miles per hour of wind, just a little. We were talking to the people down on site. There's a little bit at the start-finish area as well, Ian, but right now it's kind of everyone for themselves.
It certainly is. McGill opening up a small advantage over Marnie there. McGill, 2 fourth places last weekend. She'll be very keen to make a step forward from those races and get up onto those podium spots this weekend.
She definitely will be. As Rochette now going into this technical area, you can see you have to like bunny hop a little bit off of that, and then you come into this, and this is a little bit more where you're driving your bike. You're doing a lot of pedaling down here, but for these riders at this level, they're going to be trying to come through this section and really stay, focused, not make any errors. So also, you can see it kind of 180s back in itself, so you can take a note about where someone is on the course, that your competitors here. So Rochette's gonna be looking at Sydney McGill, and Sydney McGill's gonna be looking at seeing where is the chase group that's behind me of Kaya Musgrave and Laura Zorner. So they're really trying to do everything that they can to keep tabs on everyone. This is excuse me, I'm gonna get there. Isabella Holmgren coming through there, riding for Stimulus Orbea.
Yeah, the riders really have to be careful through these sections, just small rocks and roots in places, and the riders, even though it's fast, dry conditions, still probably only running around 20-24 PSI in those tubular tyres. So yeah, catch one of those rocks wrong. There's a chain problem there. Sounded like the chain was off for Zorna, was that? So she will have fallen out of that chase group. Yeah, we see she's no longer with her teammate Marnie. So yeah, chain problems coming out of that technical section. But as I was saying, you do have to remain vigilant in these technical sections. Small rocks and roots have come through the surface over the years. These technical sections have been used time and time again for this race, especially as we saw last year on the second day, muddy conditions. It really digs away at that surface, and catch one of these rocks and roots wrong and you can pinch punch her.
Yeah, never fun when that happens at all. Yeah, you just don't want to have it happen. And like you said, this course gets used every year, and then it has a year to recover. And but the rocks and the little stumps and things like this start to make their way out. This is kind of perfect conditions, I think. 70 degrees with a little bit of breeze in the air. A nice a course without a ton of dust, only in those really eroded areas down that go along next to the river. Otherwise, this is great temperature for a cyclocrosser. Not too hot, not too cool. My favorite temperature to ride in, just around 70 degrees, as we see now. Some good technique there from Rochette. Gets her hand on that top tube, gets the bike away from her, really quickly back on. She'll have been doing a lot of this work over the course of the last couple of months as she prepared herself for her cyclocross season. Rochette coming back from injury. She had quite a few problems over the last season. Although she was able to do a good season over in Europe, it still wasn't her best. A lot of top 10s, which is extremely respectable. Most people would kill for those results. But for Rochette, a former multiple-time World Cup winner and podium contender on the European side, she didn't have the season that she wanted last year from an illness that she talked about quite a bit in different various media. And then also with a back injury that started up this spring just after she signed on with a new bike sponsor, Canyon, and made a couple of different sponsor switch-ups. She was able to rehab herself fully. She did ride to the World Championships with the intention of racing the endurance event. Didn't, but continued to use that block of training to get herself to this point in the season where her husband David described, and I went through last weekend on the broadcast, Ian, just that she's doing some of her best numbers that she's ever done, riding very, very strongly, able to keep a really high volume and intensity load. So this is definitely a world-class performance that we're seeing from Magali Rochette today.
It certainly is. I think it just shows how quickly she's able to open up the gap. We're talking about a rider who's got 31 professional victories, a World Cup win, 3 times Canadian champion, and kind of last year just had one of those seasons. We've all had one of those seasons where it's just problem after problem, and we just can't get into a rhythm of training and consistency, and ultimately, the results don't come as a result of that. But yeah, took the double win here 2 years ago, so obviously a course that she has liked in the past, but I think it was this weekend where she DNF'd on the Saturday last year and didn't start on the Sunday. So this is where kind of it really began to unravel for her at the beginning of last season, but completely different scenario here today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think sometimes you have to go out there and see it yourself and feel it, and you think, maybe I can train through this and get going. Every year doesn't always have the perfect run up to it, as you see her taking a little bit of fluids there on the bike, which is good. But sometimes you think, I can train through it and it will come around. And other times it's like, you know what, actually we got to press the pause button and come back to this thing so that we can be at our best. Because if your body's not on 100%, then it's no fun. As now we do see a little bit of cohesion here. We see a little bit of work here. Mani coming back to the front. Sydney McGill. Mani has openly, even last weekend, just said, like, I don't really like riding with people. I like to try to get rid of my competitors and then race kind of on my own. I like to be out there either off the front or solo in my when I'm racing cyclocross. So Caroline Mani, though, working together with the Canadian rider Sydney McGill. So we've got a Canadian rider leading it out, Maghalie Rochette. We've got a French racer, although based in the U.S., and Caroline Mani, who took us through the particulars of this track. And just behind her, another Canadian, Sydney McGill, here today. So the Rochester Cyclocross, very international affair.
Yeah, it's a slight headwind down the start-finish straight, so probably why Mani wanted to get a little bit of help down there, but now they've kind of turned back into a little bit of more technical section where it isn't kind of wind in the face so much for a long period of time, and she's happy to go to the front once again. And as I said previously in that course practice, she just really wanted to hit those technical sections hard, get into those first and put other riders under pressure. But yeah, Rochette looking right now in control, got that good little gap over the group behind, and probably just doing that thing now where riding the technical things smoothly, doing the hard sections hard and the easy sections easy, and yeah, just looking back where she can to get a good idea of where those two chasers are, and you kind of gauge it each lap. You get to the same point, you look back and you're like, well, that gap's gone out and I was trying kind of 95%, we're all good. Like, no need to push on, no need to make a mistake. You've got 21 seconds, and on a fast course like this, it feels like really quite a big gap when you're leading.
Yeah, it is. But you know how it is in cross. It can happen all in the blink of an eye, snap of the fingers. It can be completely different. You know, one chain off, one clipped tire, one, you know, some problem. You can have problems, especially on a course like this one that's as hard as it is. It's great to see so many people out here in Rochester. This race, I believe, going on since 2010. That's when I see the first result. Looks like Justin Lindeen won it, and then you did some battles over there with Nicholas Bazin, the women's side, back in the day. The first winner that I have here, Natasha Elliott, and then good friend of the show here, Helen Wyman, taking it 3 times in 2011, 12, and 13. So we've had a lot of racing historically up in this northwest part of New York State, which is located in Monroe County, and yeah, it's just the western region of New York for anyone that's tuning in, just like the southern shore of Lake Ontario, if you're familiar with the maps. But yeah, it's basically western New York, and it's a beautiful spot out there. This is the second venue for the Rochester Cyclocross, and I believe, Ian, that you raced at the old venue, if I'm not mistaken.
I did. I took a couple of podiums, as you were saying, behind Nicholas Bazin, but completely different course. I would have absolutely loved this course with the technical elements to it. The previous edition was kind of a hill climb and then just a really fast descent back down to the finish, but very much enjoyable. As we see Isabella Holmgren there, shouldering that bike all the way to the top, clearly remounting. And as you were saying, things can change in kind of a blink of an eye. Zorna, who was in that chasing group, we haven't seen her since those chain troubles. She hasn't come into shot. She was behind Nuss in that last shot we hadn't seen. But yeah, Maghalie Rochette riding double trouble there. First rider, I think, to ride that in this race so far. Just be able to hop up that route and kind of rocky step combo, which is kind of all blown out with the dust in between. You see Mani off as well. So yeah, just taking small advantages here and there, probably not making up too much time actually over those 2 obstacles, but where she gains the time is after that feature. She's on the bike, able to get on the pedals and really get up to speed fast while these riders are remounting their bikes.
I would imagine too, as a rider, you know, having both you and I been in this position, you're trying to push yourself. So it's not even necessarily you want that challenge. You want to try to, you know, find that line and execute under pressure and do that. And you know, I think even yourself, like, yes, she's winning right now, but also you can find yourself like looking for what's fastest. In this case, I think it's equally as fast to be jumping off the bike, but it definitely is, you know, a little bit more efficient to not have to get off and remount and do all of that. But yeah, for that section in particular, it's, you always ask, like, can I do it 10 out of 10 times? That's the way I always used to think about it, is like, because if you mess that up once, you might give that any time, the 1 second that you would save, you might give that right back.
Exactly that, and she's forward thinking. She knows that she's going to be coming up to kind of the World Cups, etc., and be coming up against kind of a really deep, strong field that's going to really push her. As we've seen over the years, she has managed to win a World Cup in the past at Iowa, but she'll be looking to try and do that again come those early World Cups. But she knows she's going to be pushed all the way. It needs to be technically absolutely perfect to win a World Cup.
Yeah, it does. It does. Everything needs to align on the day. She's definitely, you know, there's a lot of really strong riders. Of course, you know, Puck Pieterse, Fem Van Empel have really torn up the script, and even riders that are, you know, have been world champion in the past are really close to it. You know, someone like Anna Marie Verst. Last year, we would have loved to have seen, when she was here, over here racing, really do a good matchup between the best North American riders in Hansinger and Rochette. We never got to see that battle go down because Rochette was not at her best last year. But, you know, those two have really changed things up. But I do think that there is, especially in the preseason, an opportunity for, you know, some riders to still knock in, even though Puck Pieterse and Fem Van Empel have been so dominant on the international scene. But here we are with the chase. Caroline Mani in the front. Sydney McGill making their way to this big 180 swooping turns. Very wide track, but not huge lines. You can see the one line that's burned in as they make this kind of sweeping left-hander to these blue stairs that have become so iconic. A lot of fans out here. You can just barely hear them screaming for them, but I promise you they're loud. But that's from probably like, you know, 60, 75 feet in the sky there with that drone shot.
Yeah, it's really good to see. Yeah, those iconic steps now at Rochester. We see Rochette coming round now to complete her third lap, so it really hasn't dropped the pace at all. We're talking, yes, just over 7-minute laps right now, and another one smashed out. Just pure consistency, and you know, kind of a rider's almost in control at this point when they're just knocking out kind of those really super consistent lap times.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We're seeing 7:03, 7:04, 7:08 from Maghalie Rochette. And, you know, we'll ask, like, the other riders are also consistently about 10 seconds off the pace, meaning McGill and Mani coming through just about 10 seconds off that pace. So I would wonder if it will drop. Like, is there a lap where, you know, let's say Rochette stays at that around 7 minutes, and then they lose a bunch of time and wonder, you know, if it all stays the same. It's great to see, because that means that Mani and McGill's levels just come up and continue to grow. And yeah, that's great to see for the international field, especially as the World Cup makes its way over to Trek HQ in just a few weeks here.
Yeah, certainly. Mani just trying to get McGill to come through on that headwind start-finish straight once again. And McGill, interestingly enough, took the opportunity to have a gel. Just probably swilling that one round in the mouth, getting those sugar sensors in the mouth going, just letting the body know that more energy's coming, just to be able to release a little bit more over the last 20-25 minutes of this race. But Mani straight back, working well together. We're getting a replay here of just that exchange. Kind of McGill not overly fussed about coming through to take the win, but Mani just eases off enough. And it's amazing how much time you can lose just in a little scenario there, where kind of two riders are soft pedaling ever so slightly, compared to Rochette, who just stayed on the power through that section. Kind of 2-3 seconds just opens up just like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a really fast course, and you can see that they both need a little bit of reprieve here. This may be the lap, right? This is about that halfway point, 23, 25 minutes, where these riders are going to really start to feel kind of the intensity. They're definitely, you know, a step above the chase here. The chase is an even further 15 seconds back. This next group here with Holmgren kind of out there in the middle of just between McGill and Mani, with Nuss and Musgrave there just behind at about 1 minute. And then behind that, you see Brenneman and Zorner there after having that problem, or Zorner there having an issue with what sounded like her chain just down in 9th spot. So we're watching here our leader, Maghalie Rochette, riding through on that brand new kind of baby blue Canyon, new sponsor for her, switching from Specialized over to Canyon Collective this year to rep the Canyon banner as she comes through. So right now just kind of weeding her way through here and dropping down to this very, very steep run up.
Yeah, that Canyon now, she's on the same kind of bike as Petersen, Matthew van der Poel. So yeah, certainly probably using one of the very best CX bikes out there that money can buy. So no excuses in terms of equipment choices for Rochette this year.
No, definitely no problems there. One of Maghalie Rochette's good friends, Caitlin Bernstein, who we all know in the New England cyclocross scene, Ian, was out there yesterday, and unfortunately, I believe it was an ACL injury coming from Maghalie Rochette's husband to me. Tore the meniscus or something, ACL, tore something around the knee, and is unfortunately out. Was planning on racing here in Rochester, her first race back after, I believe, another injury, and now is unable to race the Cyclocross World Cup in Trek or today's races. So thinking of you, C-Dub, as she goes by locally. So hopefully you heal up, rest up, and Nationals is still can be in the picture, or the end of the year can still have some things to play for. But injury, Ian, always you remember them all. It's hard. It's one of the hardest times as a rider.
One of those things that everyone has to deal with at some point, and it's going to be disappointing initially, but then you just have to come up with a plan to come back stronger. See the positives almost from it. Sometimes you can get injured and you have to have the time out to recuperate, to recover, and then you make a good plan to come back. And maybe if she can get back by the time kind of Nationals come round perhaps, or even kind of January, February, I saw that she has been coming to Europe the past couple of seasons to finish off the season as such. So they can make a really good plan to hit the end of the season hard and kind of take advantage of everyone else being slightly mentally and physically fatigued come January. Then you can pull out some good results. You're still very mentally fresh and almost peaking for a time of year where perhaps others are on the way back down. So you try and have to look for positives in this situation, because it can be easy to kind of get down on yourself, and very frustrating, almost second weekend of the season in the US, and to go out injured with what sounds like quite a serious injury. So wishing her all the best.
Agreed on all points. Another person of note out here in Rochester is Lil Wilcox. So some of you would know her from some of her big adventurous riding, but a good friend again of Maghalie Rochette, out today spectating, and I've even heard trying to be pushed into doing a bit of racing tomorrow. But that would be a treat to be able to see Lael Wilcox out there tearing it up on the cyclocross circuit. This is the first time she's ever been to a cyclocross race, so apparently she's taking it all in and checking things out. So hopefully the powers that be down there on site are able to convince her to throw herself on the start line, pin up a number, and have some fun with it.
There's no better way to experience your first cyclocross by getting involved.
No, there's not. I saw a couple gaps getting back to the racing action here when we saw those technical spots. I saw about 2 bike lengths gap between Mani and Sydney McGill there, and I'm wondering, Ian, what your take on this is. How this is a duel here for second spot on the podium, and I know that Mani won't want to lose. She's a fierce competitor. She really is. She's serious. I wouldn't want to race against Caroline Mani. What's McGill going to be able to do here on this course to be able to dispatch Caroline Mani?
I think it's going to come down to kind of that last lap dash perhaps between the two riders. Mani's definitely going to want to back up those 2 second places from last weekend, but she's doing exactly what she said she was going to do in that course preview, and every time she gets to a technical section she leads, she opens up that little gap over McGill, and she has to close it on the exit of these technical sections. And so just forcing McGill to use up little bits of energy to keep coming back to the wheel, and I would have thought from Mani's point of view she'll hit it really hard out of one of these technical sections on perhaps a penultimate or the last lap, and just try and break that elastic, and hopefully that the wearing down process over the course of this race will work out come the final kind of 10 minutes of racing.
having raced this one too, Ian, you can see that this is it's fast here, and you can see how Mani's got now 2 bike lengths over McGill as she comes through. Right here, you make it's like a bowl just up behind where we were getting that overhead shot, but then you come to here, and it really is like a gravel sprint, and it's long enough to kick and to get side by side, but you don't really want to be starting it there. You need to start it earlier and get it strung out, single file through that turn, and then onto the gravel. But I don't know, what do you think here? This does look like this is an attack, and it looks like McGill might be hurting a little bit from what Caroline Mani's putting together.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was saying, just a little bit earlier than I thought perhaps, but maybe just taking advantage of the situation. She's ridden a technical section really well towards the end of the lap and got a few bike lengths, and then once you look around and you see you've got a gap, you might as well press on and kind of twist the knife as such and begin to really open that gap, kind of no longer in the draft of yourself. So yeah, you really go all in at this point to try and break the rider behind, and it looks like that gap's only going one way, and right now McGill is going to be having to look round because Holmgren's on the chase.
Yeah, so looking at Holmgren's lap time, 7:22, 7:16, 7:22, 7:24, super consistent. And then we look at McGill, 7:16, 7:13, 7:14, 7:20. When we look at Mani, it's 7:16, 7:13, 7:15, 7:18. So we see with Mani a lot of consistency. We see McGill did lose some time on that last lap, about 6-7 seconds over the previous laps, and then we see Holmgren just staying super consistent as well, right around that 7:15 to 7:20 mark. So everybody here got a pace, but Isabella Holmgren maybe vying for a elite podium today as we get the replay now of Caroline Mani just putting her head down, going all out as she can through the start finish to try to distance Sydney McGill. And this is mentally one of those things that as a rider you've got to really just kind of, you know that you're trying to fight for that podium spot, you want it so bad, but for right now for Sydney McGill, she finds herself Caroline Mani forcing the issue, and then you've got Isabella Holmgren just behind, also really trying to just nip at your heels. Tough spot to be in right now for Sydney McGill to try to pull this podium off.
It certainly is, and I think this next lap's going to be absolutely key for Sydney McGill, because it'll be really easy to go too hard to try and keep up with Mani in that section in this next kind of quarter of a lap as such, and really go into the red and really blow up and kind of hemorrhage time across the last 3 laps of this race. So she just needs to remain calm, kind of stay focused in these technical sections and not let Holmgren come back to her. But got a decent gap around that kind of 25 seconds over Holmgren, so should be able to kind of manage this one. As we see now, problem for one of the riders.
Yeah, on the track here, going to be coming up just to see this. This is number 32, which is looks to be Marie Fay there for the Stimulus Orbea. So one of the teammates of Isabella Holmgren there having a problem apparently today, not able to, what seems as though a problem that she won't be finishing the race. So unfortunate there to see for Marie Fay.
It is never nice to DNF from a race, especially not so early in the season. To see, there we see it, Rochette pushing herself technically and not being able to ride that one clean. That's what you're on about. Unless you do it every single lap, you're going to kind of lose all the time that you gained from being able to ride it the previous lap. Just a small foot down and kind of, yeah, pushing herself over the top of the obstacle. But like we said, probably just pushing herself technically, pushing herself, riding against the course right now on these laps, and yeah, seeing what she's got in the locker. But a little bit of fatigue even setting in for Rochette at this point in the race.
Yeah, for sure. We'll keep an eye on those lap times. But if you're just joining us, I'm going to run you quickly through the top 10. Magali Rochette is up in first place with about a 30-second gap over Caroline Mani. We've got Sydney McGill there in third spot. Your junior world champion in cyclocross, Isabella Holmgren, down in fourth. Raylan Nuss, the continental champion who we just saw go by, riding for Steve Tilford Foundation. We haven't talked much about her today. Fifth spot right now, Kaya Musgrave there in sixth. Lauren Zerner coming back quite a bit from an earlier mechanical. Seventh spot, Ella Brenneman riding for CX Devo Trek Bikes is there in eighth spot. Greta Kilburn in ninth, and Emily Shields rounding out your top 10 right now. So Rochette off the bike, over the barricades, quickly back in the pedals and punching it right back up and out of the saddle. So in a bit of a race with herself there to keep these lap times consistent. She's gone down a little bit since the opening 2 laps, but definitely is continuing to churn out quite a few watts and stay really, really consistent.
she certainly is. A great lesson there for all cyclocross riders, getting back on the bike and just punching it once clipped back in, up out the saddle, getting up to speed as quickly as possible. That's what cyclocross is all about, coming out of these sections, getting up to speed, and then almost being able to recover on the super fast sections because you've put the energy into the bike and obviously rolls fast on these conditions. So yeah, really punching it. See the same technique from Marnie, just a few pedal strokes up out the saddle, getting that bike up to speed and onto the next section.
I always got to give the team at Full Moon Vista, Scott Page and his crew that put this race on, do such a beautiful job with the layout. It's awesome to see the course tape. Everything is flat. They've got these, I don't want to say patented, but I've never seen them at any other course, where they actually take those stakes, Ian, and they notch a small notch just in the top that holds the course tape at almost like a diagonal so it doesn't fall out, but it also makes it really pretty and looks really good, especially with the wind just going across it. It keeps everything super clean, but it is a trademark and a attention to detail that I always love to shout out, because you don't see these things in the coverage. If you're there looking at this, you just think, oh yeah, we've got this course tape, but man, it does look different if you take a good stare at it. So we get a great shot of this course, all of the beautiful attention to detail, this very historic race up here in Rochester, New York, and we've got some great racing on our hands. A very international field, as we're now seeing. We're going to finally see a bit of a where Sydney McGill is in comparison to Isabella Holmgren. Is Isabella Holmgren coming back? Is Sydney McGill holding her pace, or is Caroline Monty just extending and everybody else is staying the same? We will soon find out as they go into the start-finish banner. But right now, there's definitely a lot of racing to go, and these podium spots still a little bit in flux.
Yeah, Rochette coming around now just to finish another lap, but yeah, I like what you said about the course. It's cyclocross. It's not all about making the hardest course possible with a venue. It's giving the riders kind of a chance to put in some hard efforts and recover from those hard efforts, put in little technical sections just at the right time, perhaps after a very physical section, to really kind of test the riders' technical skills under pressure, under high heart rate. And yeah, it's not as simple as it often seems, designing a course to produce some really good racing.
No, we get a good shot there, though, of McGill and Holmgren coming across now, trying to make that gap up. But Monty has definitely punched the gas pedal, did a bit of a burnout here on this at this time last lap, and is now coming through on a pretty scorching lap. So it's great to see. Everyone lost a little bit of time. You know, we're seeing Rochette come through 7:14 on that lap, Monty coming through at 7:19, McGill coming through 7:33. So McGill is, you know, just a little bit less consistent, but still doing awesome as she makes her way through right now the start-finish line there in third spot. So I know that she would love to finish this one off. I remember seeing one of her first elite performances, I believe, down in Cincinnati, where she was on the podium for the first time, really just making her name. You know, I was the first time that I was introduced to Sydney McGill and her name out there on a UCI level cyclocross race. So it's great to see that she's backing that up. I know she was out there racing on the mountain bike side of things this summer, and she's out here, though, putting a big focus here on this season with this new team, the Cervelo Orange Living Program. So awesome to see Sydney McGill up there at third spot as we see Monty now. A lot of facial expression coming from Monty, which we've come to know, Ian, but that also means one thing.
Always very animated. It's great to see. Always puts on a good show for the crowd. Great entertainer. But Rochette remains smooth up and around that horseshoe. Powers on out of that long kind of off-cambered corner. Should see now Marnie coming into shot as we cut back. You're on about Sydney McGill. Yeah, I was researching earlier, 2 times under 23 Canadian champ. She actually had 2 top 10s last year at World Cups. So yeah, very good season last year. Here we see Marnie coming into shot, kind of shaking at her head, gasping for air, just trying to get as much oxygen into those lungs and transported around the body as quickly as possible to try and stop that pain.
Yeah, I just did a stopwatch here at the top of that hill. We've got the gap there for what I have as 40, I don't know, well, back, I guess, from the leader. I've got it at about 15 seconds here. So let's see if we get that shot back to the U-turn, and if we catch Sydney McGill, where unfortunately we're not. So that's all right. We're gonna get a look here, but this is exactly what we were talking about here. Just taking a look down to see, giving it 110% there. Caroline Monty all out, riding for the Groove off-road racing as she comes through. just giving it all. At this point, when you get 2 laps to go in, it's like, you know there's only 15 minutes left, and you as a cyclocrosser, you're like kind of frothing at the mouth. You're like, all right, I can do anything for 15 minutes. Let me just keep burning it and turning it.
Absolutely. I always used to think like 20 minutes left, like I can do a 20-minute test. Like I've done lots of these in my career. It's just 20 minutes. It's just 20 minutes with lots of little recovery sections. But interesting there, what was that, 16 seconds between McGill and Holmgren? So that gap definitely coming down. That's the positions that we really want to be seeing now over the course of these final 2 laps. Marnie has broken McGill. That gap's only going one way right now, but Isabella Holmgren closing in on that final podium spot.
Yeah, and that's something that I think McGill is going to really need to. If we look at the times and the amount of racing left, there is a chance that Holmgren just catches on as we watch now. Maghalie Rochette going through this very technical section, and you know later in the race, this is where these technical bobbles start to add up. So McGill at the top of the hill here. Let's see, where is Holmgren as she comes in? She would just be coming to the bottom of that climb now, but not going to get that shot. So we'll continue to watch that battle for 3rd spot on the podium, as it looks like Mani continuing to extend her gap, but going all in. And definitely, she's paying a price for the effort. She's going hard, but you can see the wind looks to be picking up a little bit out here, Ian. There's a little bit on the little bit more movement on the course tape, especially as the riders go down on that furthest part of the course there, but right as those technical sections.
Yeah, it does look like it's picking up around about 10 miles per hour on the forecast that I saw, but it looks like it has picked up since that opening lap. See Marnie into that technical section now, getting the weight back over the back of the bike, dropping down over those kind of roots, rock sections, but Rochette round now to the barriers once again. Another smooth dismount, a hand onto the top tube, like you said. Still running that bottle. Sometimes those conditions, it's not super hot, so it's like 100% I need a bottle, but it's those conditions where you almost, if you didn't have a bottle on, you might feel yourself getting thirsty and that dust kind of collecting in your mouth. It's just nice to be able to rinse the mouth out occasionally, and if the bottle's there, sometimes you just don't need it, but if the bottle isn't there, you're just left wondering the entire race what it'd be like to have a drink.
Yeah, sometimes it's weird too, because you're like, oh, I won't need it, and then you're in the race, and you're like, man, I really need this. I really need this. And the Cyclocross, Commission did away with being able to take a bottle as a hand up. So, especially with more and more cyclocross riders taking nutrition, like a bit of an energy gel during the races, it is nice to have a little bit of water. And of course, I mean, it's no secret. People have been doing this since the beginning of time, and there's very few training rides that I do that are in an hour where I don't drink any water. So it has always made sense, but for some reason, cyclocross, it's very unconventional to have water. So let's see if we get a little bit of a gap here as we go through to see how far Isabella Holmgren and Sydney McGill, this race for 3rd spot, is heating up, if we see her come over the barriers or not. Do so it's about down to about 10 seconds, so we've got about a 10-second difference now between Isabella Holmgren and Sydney McGill, which going to be tight, Ian. That race for 3rd place, like I said, that could be a locking of horns in the final lap, and it's a gap now, but it might not be later.
Exactly. She's closed down around about, I think it was up to around about 25-30 seconds at one point in the race. I've seen this over the barriers as well, but Rochette coming up to complete that penultimate lap, so she'll be going on to the last lap. So yeah, really close racing now for that final podium spot. It'd be interesting to see as we see them across the line, perhaps to get a time check on that one, see if that gap's come down any further. It was 16 seconds at that kind of steep run-up section earlier in the lap.
For someone like Maghalie Rochette that we've got coming through here, going into the last lap, final lap now for Maghalie Rochette as she takes a drink through there, just like clockwork, staying, again, consistent, shedded about 3 seconds on that lap, 7:14 last lap, 7:18, it turns out this lap. Still very, very consistent as she goes through. For someone, she said she's training through, so meaning she's using last weekend down at the Virginia Go Cross, down the first stop of this USCX series, now here in Rochester, then going to be going to Baltimore next weekend, and ultimately to the Cyclocross World Cup in 2 weeks after that, using these races to sharpen up, to train through. What would she be thinking today? Do you think she wants to do as much as she can? or do you think she wants to stay consistent and kind of, you know, build again another big day tomorrow and try to use these races to build her form and towards a bit of a peak or to the beginning part of her season? Because the cross season, as you know, it's long here.
It certainly is, and it's always slightly different with these double race weekends because you've always got that race tomorrow. Obviously, the C1 on the Saturday on this opening day is super important in terms of the UCI points. This is the only C1 this weekend in the world, so this is a big opportunity for these athletes today to pick up those UCI points. They have a C2 today in Sweden, a C2 tomorrow in Switzerland, but in terms of points, nowhere near kind of what's on offer today. So super important for Rochette. Obviously, we talked about last season, she isn't in the world ranking where kind of she would feel she should be, and that's going to cost her at the opening World Cups in terms of a gridding position. So it's super important to take the win today and pick up as many points as she can again tomorrow. And I'm sure she's using these as the two real big intense days of training from the week. And perhaps if she is training through kind of doing the hours, doing the volume midweek, kind of those long 4 or 5 hour rides, perhaps some time behind the scooter for some leg speed, for some sharpening efforts, that kind of thing. But yeah, probably using these as a real big efforts of the week. So she's going all in. Like, it might not look like she's all in, but I'm sure she is using these as high intensity sessions, practicing those skills under pressure as well, super important for cyclocross. And yeah, continuing to build that volume, build that kind of base as such, that big kind of block of training behind you before you taper down into those World Cups for that kind of peak performance where you really want it.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree fully with that. You know, you got to yeah, these races are training too. They're hard, so you're growing from them, and if you're not growing from them, then you're stagnating. So you want to kind of get the mix of everything right. I agree with everything that you said. It's like, can you get the mix of volume and rest during the week to use the races to grow your base and your foundation and to get you super sharp, to be able to stay kind of on top of it? Because, you know, if you're racing super hard already in September and you're trying to make it to February to the World Champs, as we see Rochette with a different style, just kind of, you know, giving it the bike just a push all the way up the hill, not putting it up on the shoulder here, you can tell that the fatigue is setting in. So Rochette now definitely going all in to try to do a really strong last lap.
She is. Here we see the time check. Looks like McGill kind of just stabilising the gap back to Holmgren right now. Nurse back in 5th, Musgrave in 6th, doing a good ride. She was 8th and 14th last weekend, so yeah, making a big step forward from last weekend. Junior champ from last year, so this is her first year stepping up into that under 23 and elite category. So yeah, really good ride from Musgrave, taking yeah, obviously got those first 2 races in her legs last weekend, and just like we were saying, she's really moved on from getting those in the legs.
By the lap times, Mani suffering too there. 7:27 on that lap, her slowest lap by about almost 10 seconds. And McGill pushing it, going with a 7:30. Holmgren also with a 7:30 lap time. So everybody in that 2nd, 3rd, 4th spot, you know, really charging, doing everything that they can to hang on to the positions that they've got. And yeah, as a rider, I know you're fighting it on all ends. Like, God, can I do it? Can I do it for myself too? You know, can I keep these lap times consistent? As we see the label, the clothing label there, donkey label is the logo there, just on the lower back of Sydney McGill as she drops her bike off. Will we see Hilda Holmgren there coming through, or will we get a shot of her coming in here for this battle now for 3rd? But we haven't seen it yet. But this technical section coming up, there's quite a few tests that are left on this course, as these riders are going to be coming through on this last lap with all the adrenaline and the pressure on. We will see if these riders are able to hang on to these positions, or if we'll see a bit of a upset, or if things will stay status quo as they go through.
Yeah, sorry. I heard
Yeah, we saw Rochette really punching it up over one of those small climbs and really getting up to speed as quickly as possible after that section. And so what we were talking about using this, we see the difference, Marnie, in the saddle, kind of dragging herself over that small climb. Rochette really punching it up out the saddle, and you kind of almost can see from that just trying to open up that gap, do that lap time, and really thinking about the bigger picture rather than just on the day. Rochette could have cruised this last lap and still won this bike race, but always thinking ahead.
Certainly is, yeah. This is that moment in the race, too, when you're leading and you're in the position of Rochette. You know, she's been able to do such a consistent day out. And she's been able to ride kind of really undeterred. Like, no one's bothered her, no one's gotten in her way. She's not had any real mechanicals. She's going to be really happy and kind of elated to be at this point in the race, coming in with the last couple of minutes to be able to get ready and kind of build on what she already did last weekend, which was 2 victories. So she's going to have a lot of momentum, a lot of wind in her sails as she comes into the last couple of minutes now.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, what a way to start the season, 3 from 3. And I'm sure she's going to be looking to make it 4 from 4 tomorrow. Yeah, doing the new sponsors for that kind of small setup that she has got, run by her husband and herself, do a great job in terms of getting coverage for those sponsors and sticking it on the podium, sticking it on the top step of the podium, no less, 3 times in a row is going to, yeah, do that team a world of good.
As we say now, Rochette there over those blue steps, 4 with a bit of space in between as she's going to come down now onto the bowl here. She's going to make her way down through a couple twisty little sections. We get the drone shot in there, and you can see this is a really fun section, especially when it's a last lap duel. You rail this turn. There's a little bit of an embankment there, kind of gives you that downhill dual slalom style. But it's the Canadian Maghalie Rochette riding for the Canyon Collective for the 7th time during her career. She's winning here in Rochester, New York, in the Genesee Valley Park. It is your winner today, the Canadian Maghalie Rochette. High five in the crowd as she comes through with a big heart symbol to finish this one off.
What a performance from Rochette, just almost flag to flag win today. And yeah, as you said, no problems, no issues for her today. Her husband there congratulating her, and yeah, you just have to say job well done today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, David's been great. That's him there on the right. Always by Mag's side, giving all the deets, all the split times, dialing in the tire pressure, gluing the tires, helping out, and just being being such a great companion and friend, and yeah, partnership. They've just got it all dialed, so it's great. Europe, United States, Canada, doesn't matter, but always Rochette's always with a smile as we see such a cool, colorful, bright kit. We should be seeing Caroline Mani, the French champion, coming in here. Another huge personality finishing this one off. She's also had a ton of success on this course. She won't be stoked with second, but it is what she'll be happy with this. Very happy, excuse me. I meant to say very happy as she comes through second spot today with her hands up. Always psyched for this. So great to see Caroline Mani come in there and finish this one off in second spot. And of course, a lot of adoration all around for both these riders.
Absolutely. She had a second and a third here last year, so she's already ticked off the second. I'm sure she'll be wanting to improve on the third place tomorrow. But yeah, I think you just have to hold your hands up sometimes. You see Sydney McGill does round out our podium. She held on to that, must have dug really deep across the course of those final laps, but good ride from her today. She backed up those 2 fourth places from last weekend. And there we see Isabella Holmgren bringing in 4th place, her first under-23/elite race. Be interesting to see how she moves on from this race today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and just looking back at McGill's results, I was looking at her best World Cup finish in Dublin last year, 8th place in Val di Sole, and 9th last year. Then coming into the World Cup there on the snow the year before, 12th. So she's been tucked into that top 10 on the World Cup circuit for quite some time. It's great to see as she comes through. This is Raylan Nuss, your Continental champion. A little bit of a harder day out. She was very, very competitive down at out in Virginia last weekend there with 2 pair of third places. She says she was trusting the process, but very hard day for her as we've got now a big finish coming in here for Kaya Musgrave there. Really strong finish from the rider from Cervelo Orange Living. So great to see Kaya there throwing down, and Zerner coming in. Ian, problem for her, you noticed it, chain issue. But Laura Zerner, for all things said, she's been having a great season so far. Zerner, only 21 years old, under 23 national champion. Awesome to see Laura Zerner coming out and having such a good ride after a mechanical today.
Absolutely. Yeah, got taken out of that chase group. Just went through one of our shots with it sounded like the chain was kind of still on, but really not working well. Perhaps it was just kind of had kicked off the front chainring perhaps and was kind of caught on the chain guide, but yeah, didn't sound healthy and obviously lost a lot of time, lost that chasing group. It would have been really interesting to see what she could have done today without those problems. Raylin Nuss had a bad start. I don't know, I didn't quite see whether she had a problem or just one of those bad starts and kind of just gave herself too much to do, but came through fairly strong, but probably won't be pleased after a very successful weekend last weekend with 2 third places.
No, sorry, third place for Laura Zerner last year at the Under-23 National Championships behind Madigan Monroe, our current U23 National Champion. But yeah, former champion, former national champion, so it's great to see Zerner, though, anyways, with a great result. This is Emily Shields coming through here, rounding out this top 10, 9th spot. So we should be expecting, we missed Ella Brenneman there with 8th for CX Devo Trek Bikes. And then we've got Emily Shields that we saw just come in there. That's right next to that pink shirt there, finishing it up. We should be seeing Greta Kilburn riding for Green Mountain Cyclocross, finishing the top 10 off. And then pretty much after that, Ian, we're going to be hearing from Bill Scheiken, the founder of CX Hairs, and hopefully our top 3 to get some insights. I'll be curious to hear what everyone's saying on such a course. It was a lot of pedaling. Some of these tracks you get, there's a lot more like, driving and this and that. But today, it's a lot of pedaling.
Certainly was. And the thing I love about cyclocross, everyone has their own little story after the race, whether we saw it completely on camera or not. But yeah, everyone has the little insights, and even if it was just how they were feeling, how they were riding technically, and yeah, be really interesting to see how kind of each rider assesses how their race went today. Because here we go with Bill.
We are here live at the finish line, Rochester Cyclocross, day 1. Magley, good to see you up here again. Anything different strategy-wise from last time?
I don't think anything different strategy-wise, but we did have another player today. So Bella Holmgren, who was the junior world champion, was there. So I have to say I was pretty scared of her. So I wanted to start fast and put the pressure on early and see what would happen. But it was good. It's a different course, more technical than last week. So felt good, but did make a few mistakes.
Really dry and dusty out there. I know double trouble other spots that may have caused some slipping. Talk me through how you were able to get through those areas and what you were seeing from other riders.
Yeah, the key there, I think, is just to be smooth. Sometimes we try to go too fast, but it is really dusty and slippery. So by trying to go too fast, sometimes we slid out. So I was trying to focus on being smooth in the technical section and coming out fast. So accelerate quickly after. I kept thinking, imagine if Puck Peterson was there. She would I was trying to still ride the limit, as fast as I could, but staying smooth.
So you got the measure of Bella today. So anything, now that you know how she's going, anything different coming in tomorrow?
I think same strategy. It worked out, but we'll see. Yeah, I think I think we're going the other way around, so sometimes it changes the dynamic a little bit. But yeah, I think tomorrow I want to make less mistakes. I messed up a couple times at the double trouble, and again, I was thinking Puck would not mess up, so I can't mess up.
Well, congratulations. We'll see you out here tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now we have our second place finisher on the day, Carolyn Manny. Carolyn, you and Sydney McGill having a battle out there. Can you just, after it looked like you were okay with letting Mags go, and then you're really concerned about holding on to that second place and making a break?
I don't know if I would say I was okay. I think I didn't have a choice. That's kind of it. She's stronger right now, and I think I'm still getting one. It takes a little bit of time for me to get it rolling. So maybe I have to warm up and do another race before too. I'm not sure, but Maggie's one level on another level, so I'm totally fine with second place. And it was fun to play with Sydney and kind of make her work a little bit. And I just kind of pay attention. When I decided to go, I was like, all right, I just want to go now. Let's go.
Well, congratulations. We'll see you out here tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, finally, we're going to bring in our third place finisher on the day, Sydney McGill. Sydney, come on over. So tell me about your race out there. Mags had a great lead, but it looked like you and Carolyn a really nice battle. What you've raced against each other so much? What's kind of the strategy going up against her?
I had a long time at following on Caroline's wheel, or kind of going back and forth a little bit. I know she's a really strong, like, power rider. So it was kind of a matter of trying to give her strong in the corners, but there was often times where it felt like we were slowing down in the corners, and then she could just gun it out of those spots where I maybe needed a little bit more power than she has. So I had to kind of gauge it a little bit, try and give her a gap into the corners, and then close it, and try and save a few of the matches. But by the end, few laps in, I just couldn't follow that explosive power anymore.
So you spent pretty much the whole season last year in Europe. How is it, starting and racing more in the U.S. and North America this time around?
Yeah, I'm really excited to be doing the USCX series. I got to do some of them last year, but was really pumped to kind of do the full season this year and get a proper taste of the American race scene. It's lots of fun coming out here and really great start to the season.
Well, congratulations. We'll see you out here tomorrow.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
All right, that does it for us here at the finish line of the women's race, Rochester Cyclocross. We're going to send it back to our commentators.
Oh, thank you very much, Bill. Always great to see our friend Bill there. Ian, what did you think of all that? It was this is the highlights section, but Ian, what did you think? We can talk over that. We just watched the race. So what did you think of everything they said?
As I said, interesting to get everyone's kind of individual story from the day, and it was nice that some of the comments matched up with what we were saying. So more luck with judgment, perhaps. But yeah, Rochette racing the course, racing herself, thinking about that bigger picture, the races coming up, and pushing herself technically. Made a few mistakes, as she said. Wants to improve on that. Looked at tomorrow to make some little improvements as well. And then Marnie was playing the game early on, and once she went all in, but yeah, couldn't do anything about Rochette on the day. McGill, happy with her ride, and so she should be. A podium position for her is a really good result, and looking forward to seeing what she can do the rest of the season, coming to Europe, etc. So, yeah, lots of stories to tell, and some great interviews and great insight from the riders.
Agreed. Here is the top 8. Rochette, Mani, McGill, Holmgren, Nuss, Musgrave, Zorner, and Brenneman round things out there.